Okay, so let's talk about this Tim Pool bullshit. Okay, so if you've been following the stream, you know that I have covered Tim Pool stuff more often than I can count. Now, it doesn't really matter because it's a small streamer, but whatever. Regardless, it is bothersome to me the way that Tim Pool uses his platform. And so I was upset the other day where he asked a question. My problem with him asking questions isn't that he's asking questions. It's that he's not asking questions. He's asking questions, which are him positing his ideas in a way that protect him from criticism, but allow him to rile up his base. So I point out in this thread, the TLDR is that this tweet right here, in this video, the guy basically
we
says,
don't know if just getting the vaccination prevents serious illness, or does it also prevent you from getting infection?
So now he says right there, we don't know, does it prevent you from getting serious, or does it also, he doesn't mean does it do either. What he means is it prevents serious illness. That's been tested. We don't know if it also stops the spread of the virus, meaning that while you won't end up in the hospital because the vaccine works, you won't end up in the hospital with serious illness. That doesn't mean you don't become a vessel for the virus, that you're not able to carry the virus and pass it on to others. So this person responds. And my criticism was like him posing that question and getting all those clicks is harmful, because instead of people getting good information, because people will take folks like Tim Pool, Joe Rogan, whatever, they will listen to them and they'll take it as if they have done the research, they have done the thinking, and they don't have to go do further ideas. Does it mean all of them are doing it? No. Does it mean that people don't have a responsibility for themselves to go out and validate ideas, especially when it comes to medicine? No. But what it does mean is at the end of the day, if you are not stupid, you are aware that those people are trusting you in that way. Therefore, you have a responsibility to use your platform responsibly. So I make all that hubbub, and this guy says, this is absurd. Tim used common sense and made a perfectly logical conclusion. Anyone trying to make the case that Tim was lazy would feel awfully silly if they didn't think this through themselves. I thought it through. I responded to this guy in the video. I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was basically, I think this is the one where I pulled up the CDC report and said, dog. Because he says something like, first of all, as we were originally told, COVID-19 is primarily an issue for vulnerable populations. I said that this was stupid because it's not just about the vulnerable populations. It's about the impact of everyone getting COVID and the impact that has on the healthcare system. So it's not just COVID patients who are hard up because we are limited on certain supplies for this and that. It's also the other people who need those doctors to be attentive to them. COVID is taking over our hospitals. We have hospitals that are at 95% capacity. That is, that's a danger zone that hospitals work vehemently or work vigorously to avoid ever getting near. And there's only so many hospitals you can route people to. So no, it's not just, it is primarily an issue for vulnerable populations in the sense that they're most likely to succumb to it, but it's a huge issue for the entirety of our population. The definition of that population has changed as we learn more, but the premise has remained the same. So this means as soon as those populations have been vaccinated or had the opportunity to vaccinate, there's no longer any reason for COVID restrictions whatsoever. That is not true. There are still younger and healthier people that are going down hard for COVID. It puts you out of work for 2 weeks. It puts you in a state where you are not able to really function if you have the severe symptoms. Like, this isn't just a fucking flu. It's not. There are athletes that were perfectly healthy, like a swimmer, fucking 30-something-year-old swimmer, died from COVID. No pre-existing conditions. Or comorbidities, I'm sorry, is what I meant to say. Anyway, business owners and employers can set whatever rules they want, but government mandates would be rendered unnecessary. Here's the other thing. Anyone unprotected... Wait, hold on. I didn't go as in-depth on this guy as I should have. The first thing I'll say is this. I haven't fully read this response. It came in last night. I was having some mulled wine, enjoying myself, and I didn't want to ruin it. So I read like the first sentence, and I skimmed through, and my takeaway is that he goes into detail. This is me being very honest. I'm assuming he goes into detail, and that I might have misspoke by saying it doesn't reduce, because my overall criticism was that he made a comment in here about that masks are there. Where is it? We've also been told that wearing masks isn't necessarily about stopping the spread of COVID, but limiting the viral load. So I said this was stupid. It is about limiting the spread of COVID. And then I pulled up the CDC study, and he brings up the CDC study and says I didn't read it or understand it. So what I'm going to assume is that I made the wrong attack against him. If he's correct, I made the wrong attack. Instead of attacking him and saying or pushing back and saying that it's not about limiting the viral load, it's about limiting the spread, I should say that was an unnecessary distinction to make, because at the end of the day, if it's limiting the viral load and the CDC study is saying that the masks work, then this is an unnecessary bit of commentary. Wear the fucking masks. A vaccine would mean the virus isn't replicating inside of you. That is not what it means, and that's the whole point of the commentary, is that we don't know if the virus is just not, if it's being held back enough that it's not going to hurt you, versus whether or not it's being held back enough that you can't spread it to others. So no, they don't know without testing whether or not the viral load inside of you is in any way, shape, or form impacted to an extent that you can go maskless. That's the entire point. So maybe I focused on the wrong thing there, but overall, my premise still stands. My idea was still grounded, that you wear the masks to prevent it, and the science doesn't know whether or not the vaccine does what this guy is saying it will do. So actually, I don't even know if we need to fucking go into this now. That's probably the direction he's gonna take it. But let's find out, shall we? Because I have nothing better to do. Damn, it's 9 o'clock already. Did that fucking video take that long? I might have to record another one offline. All right. I find it astounding that you've now made 2 threads criticizing Tim for not using Google and just did the same thing twice. Curious if you can cite how I'm wrong with any of this. And the CDC study you looked at was cited incredibly dishonestly. Read the bottom to see how clueless you are. Masks reducing, not eliminating the spread. Okay. That's about the different types of masks. Reducing transmitted viral load has been the main defense of cloth masks. It takes more than one instance of a virus to catch it. Different amounts of transmission will lead to different probabilities of contraction. Less spit flying equals less viral load. Less virus replicating in you equals less virus load. Simple. Here's how immunity works. The immune system is a complex system of interacting cells whose primary purpose is to identify foreign, non-self substances referred to as antigens. Antigens can be either live, such as virus and bacteria, or inactive. Like, hold on. Is he going to tell me how viruses, like, the immune system works by the white blood cells in your body attacking and identifying these other cells, building the immunity against those based on whatever the cells are comprised of. And the way vaccines work is they take a version of that virus that is dead, but that puts the DNA into your body. The virus can't harm you, but then your body is able to come up with an immunoresponse to it. So then when your body actually encounters the live virus, the immune system knows what it looks like. It has the code, and it knows how to attack it. End of story. It's like, it's basically like an antivirus in your computer. Your computer is loaded with antivirus software. That software gets updated with markers that identify what a negative piece of software would look like, a piece of malware would look like. And then as soon as it notices it, it can 86 it before it has a chance to do anything to you. So, Anyway, let's see if that's where he takes this, as if I didn't understand that. Antigens can be either alive, such as viruses and bacteria, or inactivated. The immune system develops a defense against the antigen. This defense is known as the immune response and usually involves reproduction of protein molecules by B lymphocytes called antibodies or immunoglobulins in a specific cells, including T lymphocytes, also known as cell-mediated immunity, whose purpose is to facilitate the elimination of foreign substances. So far, already tracking this. So again, by eliminating the foreign substance, COVID virus, it reduces the viral load so the virus doesn't replicate unchecked. This reduces the number of virus particles transmitted when sneezing, speaking, etc. How does the COVID vaccine work? I know there's a new technology. Okay. It just sounds like it's the same. The mRNA is injected. Your body says, "Ah, yes," and then learns to create the spike protein that covers the virus. Anyway, let's continue. So again, by eliminating the foreign substance, COVID virus, it reduces the viral load so the virus doesn't replicate unchecked. This reduces the number of virus particles transmitted when sneezing, speaking, etc., because there are lower numbers of the virus in you. This is why I'm questioning if someone who has been vaccinated could be an effective carrier. And there is one caveat to this, that it usually takes a few weeks for one immune system to react, so you are probably a good carrier for that short period of time. I want to also go back to what Tim said. We don't know if the vaccine works, then why get it? This was a dumb thing to say, because Tim is saying if it doesn't work, why get it? What they're talking about is whether or not the immunity was spread. And while Dazo, your thoughts are understandable, because yeah, it's like, oh, well, if it works like a normal vaccine does, which is give your body the immune response, how would you be able to spread it? I wonder, I'm sorry, I got to finish that thought. But to finish the thought, while that is an intelligent way to think about this, it's not a good response to my criticism of Tim, which is that Tim saying, why get it, spreads distrust, leads to people spreading falsehoods and disinformation in the worst possible scenario, not getting the vaccine, not trusting the vaccine. Anti-vaxxers had a fucking field day with it, or are having a field day with this. So yeah, him positing that question isn't a harmless act. Sorry, I know I keep shaking the camera. So even if you and I are going to have a discussion or a disagreement on whether or not scientists are correct for being concerned about whether or not it can spread the virus, my criticism still stands. Now, regarding the conversation we're having about the masks, again, we don't know how effective our immune system is at crushing that virus beyond preventing us from getting enough of it to experience symptoms. We could still have enough of it to spread it. So reducing it, hell, even by your theory here, if it's reducing like that, then Tim's comment was stupid. But I'm sorry, we're talking about the masks. So regarding the masks, because we don't know, you have to wear the mask. You have to still socially distance. You still have to have some mandated lockdowns and restrictions until we know for sure. Because otherwise, we're going to continue. We have a limited supply of the vaccine. So the reason to take the vaccine is if you're high risk, you're a frontline worker, you're old, whatever, you have comorbidities. But we only have so many supplies. I think we have 100,000 in the United States, and people need 2 doses. So that means 100 million. So that means only 50 million of the 350 million people are getting vaccinated. There are still 300 million. And with all the shit we know about COVID, that is still a group of people that is highly at risk. There's still a fuck ton of old people in there. There are still a fuck ton of people with comorbidities in there. So yeah, you still need the masks and you still need the social distancing, even if you get the vaccine. But we don't know if it's not spreading it. Can the flu be spread if you... Now, my understanding is the flu vaccine is one of the reasons you get it as a young person is not to prevent yourself from getting too sick. It's to prevent spreading it to older people. So it probably is effective. But, oh, wait. Interesting. Can the flu be spread if you have the vaccine? Yes, you can. Remember, even people who have been vaccinated can contract the flu virus and are at risk of spreading the flu if they are not practicing the 4 principles of hand washing, blah, blah, blah. Flu vaccine is not a single solution to the flu, but simply part of the the true flu prevention strategy. Misconceptions about seasonal flu and flu vaccines. Can the flu vaccine give you the flu? No. Are there any? This is CDC I'm reading. Are any of the flu vaccines recommended over the counter? Is it better to get sick with the flu or to get it? I really need a flu vaccine every year? Why do some people not feel well? What are the serious reactions? What about people who get seasonal flu vaccine and still get sick with the flu symptoms? There are several reasons why someone might get flu symptoms even after blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm not finding anything on the CDC about it. So maybe I saw one page saying, yes, it does allow you to still spread it. But regardless. Anyway. So, where were we? This reduces the number of virus particles transmitted when sneezing, speaking, etc., because there are lower numbers of viruses in you. This is why I'm questioning if someone who has been vaccinated could be an effective carrier. And there is one caveat to this, that it usually takes a few weeks for the immune system to react, so you are probably a good carrier for the short period of time. Anyone can catch COVID, but it's not dangerous for the majority of the population. 96% of hospitalizations in New York had at least one comorbidity. 88% had 2. Wait, how is this against my point? Anyone can catch COVID, but it's not dangerous for the majority of people. 96% of hospitalizations in New York had at least one comorbidity. 88% had 2, which makes me say that a lot of people in the hospital are fucking, are these COVID hospitalizations. Okay, thank you. That's the bit of clarity you should have put here. Vaccinate the vulnerable population and the vast majority of the problem goes away. In fact, COVID-19 likely becomes less dangerous than the flu. I tried to find a more recent number, but this was hard to find anything more recent than April. Anyway, yes, primarily a problem for the vulnerable populations. Reducing hospitalizations by 96% takes away effects on the healthcare system. Okay, cool. So he addressed that. Or his idea on it anyway. This has been widely known and repeated. In fact, when kids were going wild on spring break, the main cause for concern, I heard, voiced, was them spreading to others. Aside from the glaring factual inaccuracies, there are a couple of strong men built in there like limited supply of the vaccine. I was crystal clear about this being after vulnerable populations had the opportunity to vaccinate. Again, the vulnerable populations aren't just people over 80 or whatever the old person age is that they consider to be when you're in more danger. The vulnerable population is that like more than half of this country has a comorbidity. So if you're saying 96% of populations had a comorbidity, and that once we vaccinate that those people are going to be okay, no, it's not. We again, over half the country has a fucking comorbidity. So while I appreciate the academic and intellectual approach you are making here, you are at the same time still discounting a fucking important piece of the puzzle. Let me Google it. I know you hate that. What percentage of America has a comorbidity? Okay, in adults, I want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. So give me 1 second. Okay, so this study from Yale. Sorry, I'm looking for the source. Can a brother get a source? I don't know. Anyway, either way, I was a little off. Not over half. 45.4% of U.S. adults were estimated to be at heightened risk of COVID. Complications due to comorbidities increasing to blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. Anyway. So over 45%, 45.4% of adults reported that they have any of the 6 comorbidities associated with COVID. With that, again, that alone, 45% of 3, I'm bad mental math. That's still a lot of fucking people. Okay. So that means 100. So remember, we just said we have 50 million people are getting vaccinated. That means there's still going to be 107,500,000 people that are not going to be vaccinated. So no, it doesn't just, the vulnerable population is fucking huge and we don't have the supply for it. But now you did talk about, what did you say? You said something about, there were a couple of strongmen built in there like limited supply of the vaccine. I was crystal clear about this being after vulnerable populations had the opportunity to vaccinate. We have a long time for that to go. So, again, circling back to the origin of this argument, the issue with Tim Pool's messaging is that we still have a long time to go, and he's making it so people will not want to get vaccinated. All his fucking viewers aren't fucking 17-year-olds. Like, and the information that he propagates spreads beyond. And when it's combined with all the other people that are like him, that are discounting and dismissing and all this other shit of the vaccine and making dumb questions like this, like even with this conversation you and I are having, it is far removed from the harm caused by Tim's messaging. Or the harm that Tim's messaging could cause. Sorry, I want to be very accurate. Then there's a response to my question about whether there's reason to believe vaccinated people can spread COVID. I think we already hit on this. I'm not sure how repeating the lack of study says anything. So there are different levels of certainty, with proof being the highest standard. I agree we don't have proof either way. What I'm asking is if there is reason to believe, a relatively low level of certainty, that a vaccinated person can spread this virus. Is there any evidence that is less than definitive suggesting this is the case? In other words, are we just assuming the worst case scenario in every situation? If so, that seems like an absurd way to approach life to me. I agree, usually, except when, people's lives are in danger. But if you told me something along the lines of, we're not sure if you can be vaccinated and still be a carrier, but there are some evidence suggesting this is the case, then that's different. Then it's something that we should probably take into consideration. And yes, there is evidence for or against this out there somewhere, even if it's only anecdotal. Again, the point of the guy's conversation was not, hey, we aren't going to be able to change some things after the vaccine gets rolled out more and more. It's right fucking now. See, this is how responsible messaging works. It's not talking about that. It's focusing on the right now, which is, whoa, hold on. Just because you get the vaccine doesn't mean you can't stop social distancing. Doesn't mean you can't stop wearing a mask. You could still spread it, and there's still plenty of vulnerable people out there. We don't have enough vaccine. So I feel like this is tangential, and while maybe we are talking factually about an idea, it's irrelevant to my original point, which is Tim's messaging is bad, masks work, there is still an unknown when it comes to how long you will be able to spread. Yes, tuberculosis and measles have been around forever. They're widely vaccinated against and have been extensively studied. This is why they're a good example to use to see if a vaccinated person can be a carrier. I guess you missed that one. Yes, I'm sorry, I got to read that again. They're widely vaccinated against and have been extensively studied. Yes, they're a good example to use to see a vaccinated person. I imagine, so this is a layman's guess, but I imagine that every virus behaves differently. It's one of the reasons that HIV doesn't have that HIV doesn't have a vaccine. That it has been studied, and I think there's like some progress that's been made. Viruses behave differently, so it's completely reasonable as a layman that I'm coming to the hypothesis that we don't have an HIV I know we don't have an HIV vaccine or cure because of the way. Cure is the wrong word to use because of the way viruses operate, but we don't have a vaccine for HIV because of the way HIV works. So it's my belief that, yes, we can look at tuberculosis and measles and get some information, but I believe it is likely that all viruses behave differently. And so therefore we can't just rely on that when giving medical guidance to the public. We have to study, especially when it's something this widespread and horrible. We have to rely a little more on just the meta-analysis of other viruses and then make our conclusion here. It is way better. And you when you talk about, not operating in the realm of, are we assuming the worst case scenario in every situation? This is one where it's very, very necessary to say, hey, don't ease up on the restrictions because we don't know. So if you got the vaccine, keep wearing your mask, keep social distancing. Now, what really got me fired up, the CDC mask study. You're not sure where I get my information because you never looked into this shit yourself. I got it from the same source you did. The difference being that I read the whole thing. I've read that study 1,000 times. I'm 90% sure we read the fucking study on stream, but I'll humor you. Masks are primarily intended to reduce the emission of virus-laden droplets, source control, which is especially relevant for asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic infected wearers who feel well and may be unaware of their infectiousness to others, and who are estimated to account for more than 50% of transmission. So here's the explainer, since my original comment went over your head. We all know when you talk, cough, sneeze, tiny droplets are emitted. Traditionally, cloth masks have not been viewed as effective because they still allow some of these droplets through. When anti-maskers started to cite this fact, they were quickly rebuffed with, but it reduces transmission. And this is true. So far, we're on the point that I've made. I'm really curious where this is going to go. This being the case, the spread of COVID-19 will not be eliminated, but merely reduced, which is something I highlight. In fact, I really want to go to my own video and show that, because I did say that. I do say that vehemently, that it isn't eliminated, it is about reduction. This part, I did read, the last part. Overall, I respect the innovation in your grift. The idea to come to an opposing sub and say controversial things to garner attention, then redirect your videos is brilliant, but next time you call me an idiot, cite facts, and read your own goddamn sources. Cool. Sweet. So, for integrity's sake, I don't consider this a grift. Am I relying on the fact that Tim Pool's people are going to disagree with me and drive some clicks and views to my YouTube channel? Sure. I'm also getting like 50 extra views of video because of it. So it's not like I'm getting anything tremendous, but even if I was getting 1 million views just by posting it to Tim Pool's subreddit, I don't think that's a grift, because my thoughts are genuine. The views that I'm espousing, I truly believe, and that's not grifting. Grifting would be having a massive platform where you spread disinformation, misinformation, and phrase things in weaselly little ways that let you wriggle out of it, but at the same time keep your base fired up and growing because you're capitalizing on the different situations in our country that need tending to rather than stoking. That's a grift. Grifting is saying things that you don't actually believe. Grifting is saying things that you have no basis for saying except your own benefit. That's a lot of Tim Pool's activity. So it's really weird that you call me coming here to the subreddit to spread my differing opinions and to stoke the fires of conversation and benefit from it through extra YouTube videos. Yes, absolutely. But it's weird that you say that I'm grifting, because that's not grifting. Anyway, yeah. So in short, to give the summary of this, this discussion has nothing to do with my original criticism of Tim. My original criticism of Tim is based on the fact that he says, then why get it? And you get it because you need to get it if you're in the vulnerable population, and you need to get it so that we stop spreading it to everyone. That is why you get it. And then he also asked the question, we don't know if the vaccine works. We do know that the vaccine works in preventing you from getting it. And that's the most important part. They prevent you from getting the symptoms of COVID that put you in the hospital, that put you out of society, and hopefully it will stop the spread, but we don't know for sure. Right now, we're just trying to keep people from getting deathly ill. We're trying to stop people from dying. 3,000 people a day are dying. So when you talk about Tim Pool being lazy, yes, this is Tim Pool being lazy. He didn't think about his actions. He didn't spread the proper information, which is get the vaccine, especially if you are vulnerable, and keep wearing the mask after you get it, because you could still spread it to other people. But now we're on this discussion about whether or not the vaccine prevents you from having a viral load high enough, and whether or not a mask spreads it. I think your interpretation of me, I'm curious if you actually listen to me, because I know that I'll jump around and I'll inject a lot of random thoughts into my sentences before I finish a complete thought. But at the end of the day, I know that I always explicitly differentiate between eliminate and reduce when talking about masks. It's like, go to my fucking Twitter, man. There are it's a tremendous reduction in the spread. Is it stopped? No. Is it tremendously reduced? Yes. And I made that point. So I don't know why you had to make that distinction. As far as the way viruses work, I appreciate I was going to say condescending, but you weren't too condescending in there. Yeah, I already know how viruses work. I know how immunity works after a vaccine. I understand that. I don't think I was disputing that at all. I do think you make a good point here when it comes to the way the immune system works and reducing the viral load. The thing we don't have knowledge on is the way that compared to tuberculosis, measles, and other vaccinatable viruses, we don't know the way that this virus works. So we don't know how long it's in your system. We don't know to what degree it gets to a spreadable viral load that still needs to be concerned. It could be that, hey folks, real life is calling, and then I got to get ready for work anyway. So this is where we're going to end the stream in a second. But to wrap up the point, we don't know where the difference between the way coronavirus is going to react compared to others. So this is an unnecessary round of questioning. Wear your mask, get the vaccine, and wait for the facts before we start reducing any of these studies. Also, 45% of this population has a comorbidity. We only have 50 million people that are going to be able to get vaccinated right now. We still at least need 100 million for them. And at the end of the day, the virus is still tremendously impactful on the lives of the rest of Americans. So until we have way more control, you need to wear the fucking mask. You need to get the vaccine. If you got something else you want to reply with, please do. Otherwise, thank you all for watching. Have a great day. My name is Larkin. Please subscribe to my channel, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. I need your subs and I need your support so I can grow my shit bigger. Please, oh please, I don't need donations, just need your follows and adorations. Please, 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 like, subscribe, and follow.